Hey there, Duke fans. This is the episode you have been waiting for. Welcome to episode number 800 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. I am Donald Wani. I'm your host for this milestone episode. I have Jason Evans with me, and for Jason, as you say hi, I just want to let people know that we are living in a world that has a lot of news going on right now, and Jason is at the center of it. So we may not have Jason for this entire episode, but Jason just wants you to be able to say hi before things get hectic.
Yeah. Sometimes life at CNN is a little bit difficult, and things are happening, and I'm kind of busy, but I had to at least be on here for a moment to say hi to the great man who is making his 8th appearance on this podcast. The dog is here.
Yes. This is the episode where you do not want to hear from us. You don't want to hear from Jason or I. You hear from us the other 99 episodes out of every 100. On every milestone 100 episode, and this is the 8th time we've had him. Kenny Dennard, the dog, is here with us. Kenny, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be marking these centennial events every time, and I guess that's the right way to categorize it. And it's just thrilling that I'm still here to do it.
We're honored to have you here once again. It's good to see you. You look well, but tell the people what you've been up to the past, year or so.
Same old. Just work and travel and try to go to as many Duke basketball games as my schedule will allow, which...
Wait. Hold on. Because I was there. You and I were both there over the weekend. You got to shoot a free throw. I need to hear... It was tell folks the circumstances and tell them what you did, because it was epic. It was unbelievable.
It would have been epic if I hadn't airballed it, but no. The fine folks at the Duke basketball office, I called and said, "Hey, we'd like you to shoot the halftime charity shot for the Duke kids." And well, how are you going to turn that down? Even if you miss, they get $500. If you make it, you get $1,000. So, and I hadn't shot a basketball over my head for 20 years when backyard with my son when he was a kid. But I said, sure, I'll do it. I'll get everybody to laugh at me. So I did ask for one special favor. I said, just let me go practice in K Center, because I'm going to have to shoot it Rick Barry style, Wilt Chamberlain style. And I had a pretty good rhythm going. And, if you've been to K Center, it is bright in there. It's beautiful. There's so many goals, and I just boom, hitting them. I videoed it and shared it with a few friends. And so when halftime came and I went out there, there's just this, like, the only lights are on you and the basket. So that right there kind of freaked me out, and so anyway, I did my 5 bounces and tried to, and of course missed it to the right. Had the right distance, just missed it to the right. My right hand failed me. My left hand took over and pushed it to the right. But it was fun, and I appreciate them asking. That was an honor to be asked. I guess Ken Jung did the one at the Clemson game, and a lot of people miss. I think I'm only the second person to shoot it underhanded, old school style like that, and they didn't make theirs either. So I would have been perfect. I would have really been able to say I made my last basket in Cameron like that, but it was still for a good cause.
Well, I'm going to give you some grace, Kenny, because I saw the videos of you practicing in the K Center, and they were all going in, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, every single one was going in. And last time you probably took a free throw in Cameron, there was no AC. So whoever turned on the AC at the wrong time to blow your shot to the right a little bit, shame on them for that.
Funny. But that's so sweet of you, Donald. I appreciate it.
But again, you raise money for for a good cause, so we appreciate the attempt nonetheless. But I want to ask you, you've seen so many basketball games this year. It feels like every time I turn on the TV, I see you in one of those seats, not just in Cameron, but in other games. What have you, just talk about this team for a minute, what you've seen so far? Obviously, we're recording this days before they're here in DC for a very big matchup, but what have you seen from this team so far this year?
I tell people Duke basketball, and mostly now all college basketball, is like a box of chocolates. Each year, you never know what you're going to get. The intensity of this team on defense is what I love the most. I love Sark guarding that ball coming up. I mean, being close to the court where I wasn't in New York, I wasn't close to the court, but being close to the court and seeing the athleticism of these kids on both sides is amazing. How quick they are, but there's a couple of things I don't like about today's game. It's just how they palm the ball, and the offense has all the advantages because they can hold the ball, they dribble it and pause and then dribble it some more. So, they walk at least once or twice each play. There's no pivot step rule anymore. I feel like I'm getting old, but I know I am. So, but this team is fascinating. Watching the Boozer kids Carlos is a good buddy, and I'm so happy for him and his family and how they're getting to share. He's at every game, and he's just like a kid himself watching them. It's so fun to watch him watch. But this team has so many weapons, and I'm just pleased because in November or December, who knows what's going to happen in February. And in February, I think we're playing pretty good if we stay injury free, which is always a risk. Is to go into the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament, with a high seed. Don't know if we'll be a number one right now. Saturday's game, is this going to go before Saturday's game? Is this going to?
Yes, yeah. So Saturday's a big game.
Yeah, this is like 1 versus 2 since Houston lost, and we have a chance to be number one. Not that matters, but it helps with seeding going forward, et cetera. But the Houston team, I get to see a lot because I live in Houston. And, those guys are just, men. And they always are. Kelvin, God bless him, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, I believe, this year, and he deserves it. And what they did to us last year in the last couple of minutes was just, took us out of our rhythm. It was sad. And, of course, I tell all my buddies in Houston were texting me, we beat you. Last April. And then when Florida won, I said, hey, how's it feel to get done by Florida? What y'all did to us? Because Houston should have won that game. But anyway, I digress. This team is fun to watch. They've got, a lot of poise. The chemistry appears to be coming together in a way that is hard for these kids that just kind of meet each other in the summer and start playing together. And, when you watch the back picks and the dunks and the plays and the defensive switching and the fighting through the picks, it's just darn entertaining.
Hey, Kenny, we're going to have to put a trigger warning on this episode because you talked about the Houston game in the Final Four last year, and that's that's triggering for a lot of people. But I wanted to ask you, look, you are someone who has been a part of the program for, I'm not going to count how many decades, but many, many decades. Yeah, 4 of them at this point, I know.
Almost 5.
Yeah. I just feel like people need to appreciate how unbelievably lucky we all are to have a team that, like, every year we're way up there and a national title contender. There have been lean years in the past. It's hard to remember them, but they've existed. Just reflect on being a part of what has become, for our entire lifetimes, the best program in college basketball.
Well, when I see Coach K, he gives me a lot of grief because that's a sign of his endearment. And I called him on his birthday with Bob Bender. I was staying with Bob this weekend and got to say happy birthday, and he was giving me a bunch of grief, and I was laughing. But the point is, Coach K built something that the natural. I've said this, I think, in the past, that the natural progression of Jon taking over, because Jon did so much of the recruiting, so much of the scouting report, all the nitty gritty coaching work under Coach K for many years, that he was the right guy for the job, and I think that's being proved out by his stellar start in his first few years. And when you look at how the recruiting process and the NIL and this trading, free agency trade was not trading, but it's kind of like trading, but you got this in and out of players going different places every year. it's such a different game, but we are lucky. And we're lucky because what Coach K built, we built something that Coach K could build on. What we stood on the shoulders of giants in the 70s with the 60s teams. The Final Fours, people forget in black and white TV that Duke was in the Final Four many years in the 60s, and Vic Bubas was a great builder. And then Coach Foster, we had about 12 years down as a program. Then our 78 team brought it back. And then Coach K had a couple years to get his feet under him. And then the rest is history. But what Jon's done is what no other coach after a legend like Coach K, what he's done in the recruiting and getting men to play for him. The respect that they have for him and the desire to go out and give it all every game, no matter what the circumstances or who's playing, is just it's on brand. That Duke basketball that we think, Gene and me and Cheminsky and Spinarco and Bender, and we all think, we were part of the founding fathers, if you wish, of Duke basketball. But what this has become in today's age is just amazing. And not to sound sappy, we should be very, very thankful that continuity and Coach K's wisdom to choose Jon. And Jon has just shown so much. He's just such a great guy, such a nice guy. His parents, I love his parents. I get to see them when I come back, and his mom and dad are just special people. And anyway, we're just real lucky in the family, the brotherhood, the fans are the part of the family. I mean, I know they feel it because everybody I talk to, they just are so proud. And that's what it's about, is having that identity, that sense of belonging to something that's special. And each year, next year is going to be a great recruiting class too. And who knows going to stay or transfer or be brought in, but I'll bet you this, it's going to be good. So now we're in a nice piece, the 800th episode of DBR. We're at the nice place where we have a real legitimate shot of having a good seed, a very high seed, and going deep into the tournament. All the pundits, you watch them on ESPN or any of those other channels that have, CBS and whatever, they have all these forecasts and all that. None of that really matters. It's the fact we're always in it. We're at least in it. I mean, the only down year, Jason, that you were saying, only down year, what was 90, 95, right? That was really the only off year.
Yeah.
That was well documented. And it was great seeing Wojo at the game. It's all, to see the young guys come back, that was very special. And I noticed they got, Secret Service guys bringing them in to the stuff. And I tell people, well, I didn't get any Secret Service. I made it to a final. Those guys didn't even make it to a final. So I'm just, but the point is, it's so happy for all their success, these young guys in the pros and the older guys in the pros and all the Duke guys that have played in the pros and the guys who've gone on to careers and coaching and business, et cetera. It's just a great place. And, I'm probably the biggest, Duke, I think Coach K once said at a reunion 20 years ago that I've probably gotten more out of my Duke degree than any of them, just by the fact that Duke is so, and Coach K, I give him a lot of credit for building that whole aura.
Kenny, we got a couple more questions for you, but before we do that, we're going to ask everybody to sit tight. More with Kenny on the other side of this break. Pay some bills. We'll be right back.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
Support for Fans First Sports Network comes from Big Fork Brands, bringing bold bacon sausage, paleo pork jerky, and Chicago-style sauces to your table. Enjoy rich, smoky flavors made with sustainable ingredients and chef-crafted care. Big Fork uses 100% heritage hogs raised outdoors without antibiotics and has been featured by Food and Wine, the Chicago Tribune, and QVC for their bold flavors. Listeners visit bigforkbrands.com and receive 20% off at checkout using promo code FFSN. Bigforkbrands.com, promo code FFSN. Thank you for your support of this show.
All right, we are back. We are speaking with none other than the dog, Kenny Dennard. It's episode 800. And as we do every 100th episode, we get to have the dog on here to ask just many, many questions. He's not just the guy who is a part of the program, but has so much knowledge about the program. Kenny, before the break, you were talking about how well Jon Scheyer has been doing in his short time as coach. But what I've seen in the last year, especially after how last year ended, was the growth of him as a coach. You obviously get to see him up close and personal as many times as you possibly can. What have you seen in terms of growth from him that has made this year so special so far?
Well, the thing that he's brought in, because assistant coaches, and just like in the pros and football, you see all the coaches going from assistant to head coaches. Coach K had that, where when you have transitions in your coaching staff, he brings in guys who are in his ilk. They're of his fabric. And when Jay left last year, everybody was, oh gosh, Jesus. But Jay, and we're happy for Jay. Everybody's happy for Jay, except when he plays us. And we're really happy he kicked Carolina's ass. But the point being is, it's his coaching staff that he attracts and he cultivates, because he knows he was an assistant coach. He wanted to be a head coach. All these guys want to be head coaches, and he helps nurture them. They contribute. They become part of the family, the tree, if you wish, from Coach K to all the other guys who are out there coaching today, who are doing their jobs out there, and building that continuity with his coaching staff, I think, is the thing that was my biggest question, is how was this coaching staff going to respond with there's a couple new faces, a couple old faces, but Jon has a great coaching staff, and he molds those guys into what he needs. The head coach doesn't do it all. A lot of people think the head coach does it all. The head coach doesn't do it all. Those position coaches and the trainers and the training, the weightlifting and the conditioning coach, all those things are, integral to having a successful team. And then, Jon's sat at the foot at the master, played for the master, so he knows what it takes to get through a season. Thing I love about what Coach K started many, many years ago, probably 20, is when they started doing a Saturday, Monday game. That Saturday, Monday game, they do a couple a year, and they try to do them home. Sometimes it's home and over to Wake or whatever, but home. This year we had two of them. And what that does is get them, the players who are not, many of them have never been to an NCAA tournament, they're going to now, they can create that space of, here's what it's like to be in the NCAA tournament. You play a game, you have a day off, you play a game. And you get two of those this season, and they just were successful with both on how to prepare for that. So I don't know how many other teams, some probably do, but that's something that Coach K started years ago, which was helpful for a guy from Houston, could fly in on a Friday and leave on a Tuesday and get to see two games instead of just one. So, but Coach Scheyer, he's maturing. He's people. The only time I ever hear anybody bad talk about Coach Scheyer is the gamblers, because the spread got beat or something like that. No, I'm just saying that's where. But getting his team ready, they do great scouting reports. They do great prep, and he knows what he's doing. So I wasn't worried about him. I was just hoping that his staff would come along with him, and they have. The new guys that have blended in.
I think I've asked you over the years. I feel like we've asked you this question a few times, and it's always been a different answer. So I'll ask it again. And this year's team, is there a player, and I'm not asking you necessarily to choose between children here, but is there a player that you find yourself watching even when they don't have the ball? Someone that you just love how they play, and really find yourself gravitating towards them when they're on the floor?
Well, this year, Sarr is my favorite to watch. His intensity, I started watching him. I saw him in New York in November, and then got to see I watched every game on TV. So I like to watch him because he's their glue guy. He's their energy guy. And I kind of had, personally related to that. That's what my role was, is I wasn't the number one option. I was the fourth option. In fact, I got my buckets off of rebounds a lot. So I like the way he brings that intensity. So this year, obviously the other guys are fun to watch too, but those two games this weekend, I watched him a lot, and his intensity and he just brings the team up to a new level of intensity with him not on the court. Obviously the Boozer, Cameron's amazing. Last year we had the freshmen that were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, each year you could go back and there's a guy that I remember when I saw McCain play in the summer before his freshman year at K Academy. I saw him scrimmage and I said, that kid's going to go places, and he wasn't even starting his freshman year at the beginning, but he had those powerful legs, that solid core to where when he went in, he didn't get knocked off balance. He had patience. So I loved watching McCain play from an offensive standpoint. So those are, but Sarr this year is by sure my favorite to watch when I'm not watching the ball.
This year we had kind of a mix of things, right? We had a great recruiting class once again come in, and also Jon Scheyer was able to keep almost everybody that he wanted to. Obviously, the five starters went to the NBA, but he's able to keep five guys from last year's team and bring them over. That continuity kind of carried over in somewhat with some of those guys. Talked about, I know it's kind of like the Wild West here, and we on this show talk about the changing landscape of NIL, but how important do you think it was to at least have some sort of continuity to build upon with this team carried over from last year's?
Well, no, it's absolutely critical, because you see what, like Kentucky, I guess, and some of the other programs that are getting like a whole new team every year because of transfers and people leaving for the pros. Isaiah, what he did his freshman year on that, everybody remembers the Auburn game, but what he did was grow. And this year he's grown, so that, Isaiah's probably a first rounder. I'd love him to stay, but it's probably not in the cards. But these players like Blake, his hands, I like watching Malik's hands and his footwork. He's just he creates things that are never really, they are in the box score sometimes with steals or deflections, but it just irritates the crap out of the other team, all the things that he does to disrupt them. And when you've got disruptive defense, it creates solid offense. You get things and energy and then, but when you let people blow by you and go to the hole and, you just rely on somebody trying to block shots, that's a losing proposition. And we've seen that in the past in the tournament. But I think the continuity of the guys that stayed certainly add a lot of the brotherhood value. And Jon obviously does a good job working with these guys to keep them involved, to keep them. A lot of guys transfer from programs because they didn't get the time they thought. There are people in their ears going, you can get in. But fortunately, I think Duke has a good NIL and whatever the other, I don't know how all that works, but they have financial incentives that, boy, just think how much Gene Banks would have gotten with the NIL. Holy moly. But the NIL helps. And just being part of Duke. Look at Grayson. Grayson was 4 years, right? Played all 4 years. Everybody thought he might go, but Grayson stayed, and look, he's had a pretty good pro career too. I mean, It's not like he wasn't going to be a good pro. He had a lot of growing up to do at Duke, but having that Duke, wearing that jersey, being part of it, going around campus, being a student, just the whole essence of the Duke experience from a basketball perspective is special. And I think it's good for guys to stay more than a couple years. It's good for, I mean, I wish they all stayed 4 years, because if they were all staying 4 years, McCain would be a senior this year.
Right.
Think about that.
It's wild. That's wild. Yeah. Get you out of here with a couple more questions. The one question I had is, and this is kind of related to the NIL and just the changing landscape of college basketball. We talk about the NCAA's inability to be adults in the room sometimes. So we have one in the room. We have you. And I trust your judgment here.
I bet you there's people out there that would beg to differ.
Yeah. Well, for next 2 minutes, we're hereby naming you Commissioner Kenny Dennard of the NCAA. What would be the one thing that you would want to bring about, whether you want to change something or get rid of something, to make the college game in your eyes a little bit better?
Well, I talked about the ball handling, the walking, the palming, the backing it down, and I mean, I think more attention to detail on the fundamentals of the refereeing part of the game would be something I would focus on. You don't have to call touch fouls, but they just hand check and grab and hold, and most all those picks are illegal. Most of those high screens they're moving. So that's something that is a pet peeve of mine. As far as the structural part from a legal and capital sensitivity of free commerce, that genie went out. Genie came out the bottle, and I don't know if anybody knows how to really fix it, because whatever it is now, it's still a guy could play at 4 different schools like nobody's business. It doesn't matter. I don't know how they measure tampering or any of that, but some of that has to be going on. So I just think there is not an NCAA as an enforcement being anymore, and they gave up that mantle when Carolina got away with the no class stuff. So I think the NCAA is just a toothless. It's not even a tiger. It's like a pussycat. So the things that they do weigh in on somewhat surprise me. Who should be? I've always said this for years: is Jay Billis should be the commissioner of college basketball. He could really help put this thing on the right track to where it's semi-pro. It's not totally pro, but having contracts in place, having people that make commitments and live to them, that's still kind of a gray area that I think needs work. And if I was commissioner, I know that would be something I would focus on, is how you get kids to commit, how the schools have to commit. But that's just not the case. It's still the Wild Wild West.
Well, we'll hopefully see Jay this weekend here in DC. So I will pass along that message to him. I'm sure he's going to be thrilled for the extra responsibility on top of it.
Yeah, I text with Jay all the time, and Jay, even during games, he'll text me back during timeouts. But he has some of the greatest lines. I mean, he's the best. Jay's the best.
Well, I want to get you out of here with this last question, at least for me, and Jason may be able to chime in with another one. But for me, going forward the rest of the year, we obviously want to make it all the way to Indianapolis into that last game and cut down the nets. What's the one thing that you think needs to remain consistent over the next month and a half for this team to achieve that goal?
Solid D. Play the tenacious D, and don't do those silly fouls. When you foul, make it a real foul, make it a good foul. I think our offense, I think, is pretty well. Sure, we do shoot at some threes, but that's not all we do this year. This team has an inside-outside game. And one thing I want to say that noticed, I was sitting right behind the bench, about the baseline extended about 4 rows up, and there was one play that all of a sudden the ball was coming right at me. I mean, I said, geez, and somebody ran to get it. It wasn't even close to being there. You know, when they talk about getting to their spots, it finally dawned, the light bulb went off. These guys have spots so that they know when somebody's driving, you go to those corners because somebody's going to, if they don't have the shot, they're going to dish it if they get help from and to me, that's just a whole, that's training. That's what they do in practice is get to those spots and they can hit the threes. Boy, I wish we'd had the green light back then.
Kenny, I just wanted to say I've been hopping in and out again, been really busy at CNN. I wanted to say I appreciate the fact that you didn't tell any of the stories on this podcast that you told to me over the weekend.
That was at the Duke bar. I don't usually tell those stories in podcasts.
He said I don't know what you talk about. Plausible
no, I
deniability.
do know what you're talking about. You know, the title, I have a book that's going to come out after I die because I don't want to be here when everybody reads it. And the title of it, Secrets Have an Expiration Date. Because in my multiple careers, multiple lives I've got some pretty good stories. When I tell some of them, it doesn't seem like it was me, but it was. Because I don't need to make shit up. So the stories we told Saturday, hey, you told a couple too.
Oh yeah, I got mine as well. You're right. Secrets, expiration dates. I'm with you, baby.
But all I know is show up in my book when I'm dead.
I'm just going to give people a couple keywords: sauna, short shorts, and a stern lecture from the head coach.
I only told you one of those. I got a lot of stern lectures.
Now everyone's going to be trying to fill in these blanks. That's what we will leave all that to the imagination. Kenny, once again, it's an honor. It's a thrill to have you here. I know we're going to see each other down the line. Maybe we'll tell more stories offline between the three of us. But thank you again for coming in. We'll see you obviously down the road. Hopefully we see you all the way in Indianapolis. And then, of course, we hope you remain well, man. You've been a great friend, and we hope everything is going well with you in your life. And we will see you on episode 900 as well. So thank you again.
From your lips to God's ears, because 900, who knew 800? Who knew?
We didn't think we'd be here for 800. So we appreciate you being here with us for 800.
On the planet.
Yeah. Well, that will do it for this episode of Duke Basketball Roundup, episode number 800. We will be back in your feeds very, very quickly because, as Kenny has mentioned, we have a big game this weekend here in D.C. against Michigan. We will be here. We will be back with Scott Rich to help preview that big matchup against the Wolverines. But thank you all for being here for 800 of these to 800 more. For Jason, for Sam, for Scott, for Kenny, I'm Donald. This is Duke Band playing us out and taking us home.
Go Duke!